So on recommendation letters, some people are applying without any recommendation letters. Is that an approach that is possible?
Yeah, definitely. I don't ever do it just because when you hire me to do the case, I want it to be comprehensive. But the thing with NIW adjudications right now is they are really inconsistent and really arbitrary. So you could have a case where you submit a couple government memos, your resume, and then a letter explaining your proposed endeavor, and technically that's an approvable case. Is it one that I would put forward? No, because I feel like that is very, very incomplete. And I do think a wide range of officers would issue an RFE or deny the case if it was just that. But I do know that there are officers out there who would approve that case. And so you might submit it and you might get that approved, even without much other documentation, even without objective documentation, even without recommendation letters. It's really a bare minimum case if you do it that way. And it can be approved. So if you hear about people getting approvals, I don't doubt it. I'm sure they do. And so everyone should know that recommendation letters are not a requirement. What I look at recommendation letters as doing for the case, though, is allowing us to put on record as evidence explanations and detail that documents just can't possess by the nature of what they are. So you can put in documents that prove you've been working on a project, and then you can put in documents that show that project has received recognition. But you can't really put in documents that capture the scope of your work and your individual contribution unless you have a manager or someone who's responsible for that project actually describing what you're doing. And having a manager or someone actually describing what you're doing is evidence that USCIS has to consider. They have to consider it as evidence. Some of them try to ignore it and say recommendation letters are self-serving and they don't matter. But there are lots of court cases out there that say USCIS does need to consider them as evidence. They just need to consider them in context and with a reasonable eye. So they can reject some of the statements if they want, but they at least have to weigh them, consider them, and as long as they are detailed and appear probative, based on a preponderance of an evidence standard, USCIS really should accept the letters and the statements in the letters. So the letters are really the opportunity to tell the officer all the details about your work that would be interesting or would matter. This is better evidence than any kind of petition letter that your lawyer will put together. It's better evidence than any kind of personal statement you would put together and sign, because it's other people affirming what you did on the official legal record. I don't file NIW cases without recommendation letters. I could see myself doing it. I'm not going to say never, but I haven't had a case yet where it felt complete, where we were telling USCIS the comprehensive story of the person's work without them. So I do recommend, even if you're just doing 2 or 3, but put in a couple of reference letters that describe the work that you're doing, your past accolades, your past experience. Give USCIS that picture, because your chances of approval go up significantly if USCIS can understand what you are doing and have that verified by an expert.
Do officers expect letters, or is there a possibility that an officer will just disregard a case because they didn't submit any letters?
I don't know if it's an expectation. It is a standard. Like most attorneys, most firms will submit even just a couple letters. I think most attorneys do 5 or 6 letters, and that's what we do here at Waypoint. I have definitely talked to other attorneys who do 2 or 3, and that's also a totally valid strategy. So officers probably are used to seeing it. I don't know if it's really at the level of an expectation, though. I do know that there are some officers who just like to disregard letters as much as possible, so they might get a file and say, oh, no letters. Good. I don't have to reject them. It's a bit cynical, I know. But yeah, it wouldn't be a reason for USCIS to deny the case on its own. The question is more, is there enough information in the file for USCIS to make their determination? And most of the time that would require some kind of reference letter.